So here's the full list of what we know. Rogich and Arnott have been served by the Senate. We also know executives at card companies EcomLink, Selling Source, and Paycard USA have been served by the grand jury. Emails reveal Ensign's group pushed multiple tech companies for money.
That's KLAS TV's investigative reporter Jonathan Humbert in a package on this story, naming names in the simultaneous Senate and Department of Justice investigations into Nevada Senator John Ensign. Mr. Humbert and his team have done some excellent investigative reporting on this story. We're happy to have Mr. Humbert join us tonight. Jonathan, thank you very much for being with us. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Rachel. And it certainly was a big team effort. Big thanks to everyone involved.
Great. Help us understand the two parallel investigations that are going on here. One by the Department of Justice, the FBI, and one by the Senate. Are both of these investigations looking at the same potential crimes or potential misbehavior?
Well, they're looking at the same evidence. They're trying to find the same amounts of information that have been passed through emails, conversations, meetings that had gone on, but they're, in the end, going to be doing two very different things. The Senate Ethics Committee obviously investigating just the senator, but when you get to the criminal side of things, that's when things get a little dicey. It appears that Doug Hampton may have done more, perhaps violating a federal ban on lobbying for 1 full year after leaving the senator's office. So that's what they're going to be looking at for him. When it comes to the senator, they're also going to look at what may have been done and how he went about trying to get these jobs for Doug Hampton, shopping him around, so to speak. That's what they're going to try to find and see how he did it, what words were put in other people's mouths, what he said, and how that all came to pass.
Because there is a lobbying ban for people leaving Senate offices, like Doug Hampton did, potentially if John Ensign is found to have overtly facilitated, knowingly facilitated getting Doug Hampton a job that is specifically a lobbying job, that would be a criminal problem, not just an ethics problem for the senator. Isn't that right?
Well, and that's the great issue that needs to still be decided, is that you lead a horse to water, so to speak. You get him the job. You do everything you can to help your friend succeed after everything that had happened with the affair. But then the question is, how far do you go in continuing that job, getting him other jobs? Is it Hampton who goes forward and violates that ban, or is Ensign in some way legally culpable for making that happen? Is that you can give someone the opportunity to commit a crime, but it's whether they actually follow through with it that's the issue.
I see. One of the things that was so surprising this week that your investigative team helped move the story toward is this other element of the investigation that I did not know about before, and it's about these prepaid credit card companies, like, for example, EcomLink, one of the companies that has received a subpoena, apparently. What do we know specifically about those dealings and what may be being investigated between the senator and those companies?
Well, we've taken a look at some of the emails that have come to light that the grand jury hasn't even had access to at this point. And you see these companies losing out at a federal bid back in January of 2008. They contact the senator and say, Senator, we'd like to learn more about what the Treasury Department said about our bid. We didn't win. We want to learn for next time so that we can do a better job. The senator's staff contacted him back and said, that's great. Let's get together. Let's meet. And then it begins to morph into something very, very different. There's talk of coming to an office, coming to have a meeting, having a fundraiser, and all of these sorts of issues start to morph into something more. Then when you look at February, just about a month after this is happening, you've got that $28,000 annual contribution that was asked for the majority makers. That's part of the Senate committee, or the National Republican Senatorial Committee campaign group, that had asked for all of that money in exchange, in theory, to try to make some of these regulations go away. At the same time, they're asking, hey, we're going to have some of these regulations coming down the pike. You may want to have Doug Hampton on board. He's worked with our staff. Take a look at him. He's the sort of person that can help you with this. And a lot of those folks were leery about how it all went down, but they were so desperate for help from their state senator that they looked at it and said, maybe this is something we need to take a look at.
Do we know, and this is sort of jumping ahead to the punchline, I guess, but do we know if Senator Ensign ever did make interventions on those specific regulations that he was raising with those companies?
It doesn't even appear that those regulations at this point were real. We haven't heard from those companies say that these were serious issues that we were really concerned about. Again, they were talking about getting a bid. That's why they came to the senator's office in the first place. We're not sure about the possibility of these regulations and whether they were actually real issues that those companies had to even deal with.
One last question for you, Jonathan. We keep contacting the National Republican Senatorial Committee about this. We have ever since we first learned that one of the things that that Senator Ensign did in conjunction with this affair, from all appearances, is to have put the teenage son of the woman he was sleeping with on the Republican Party's payroll at the NRSC. The NRSC consistently tells us we're a whole different animal now. We're a whole different committee now. John Ensign isn't in charge anymore. We really don't feel like we have to answer any questions about that. Have you been able to sense whether or not the NRSC, the Republican Party as a whole, feels at all vulnerable because of the way they have been roped into this with receiving this federal subpoena now?
Well, we've talked to a number of Republicans and strategists as well, and a lot of them are really upset, clearly, at what had happened with Senator Ensign and what he had done over the last few years. And they feel like they're left holding the bag for his drama, for his baggage, and other issues that he's brought forward. That this was a committee that was pushing very, very hard. They still are, but the staff is all but gone from the folks who were involved when the senator was running that committee. And so you look at these folks and say anyone that knew the senator, anyone that worked with him, at this point looks at that relationship as a big liability. And that's definitely something that that committee and this party has to deal with, is moving forward with the baggage that he is still in this Senate, will be in this Senate for more than a year, at least, without a resignation. And they have to deal with that for sure.
Even as he says he's running for re-election. It's an incredible story and getting more and more incredible all the time. Jonathan Humbert, investigative reporter with KLAS TV, doing yeoman's work on this. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Rachel.